another quarterback situation. This one up north in Foxborough. So many are wondering if Cam Newton is one and done in New England, but former Patriot Rodney Harrison said on Tom Curran's Patriot Talk podcast, they can't go back to Cam at quarterback. And Dan, I'm really glad we have you for this one. Quote, that would be the worst decision Belichick ever made. You have to find a quarterback, and it would be a terrible mistake for Bill Belichick to bring Cam back because Cam can't play football anymore. He just can't play quarterback in the National Football League. Max, do you agree with Rodney Harrison?
I do not know what he's talking about. I know what he's talking about, but let me tell you why I don't think you can make that statement definitively. Number one, he's coming off a catastrophic injury. He missed a year. Right before that injury with his shoulder, he was playing as well as he'd ever played. And let me remind everyone, as well as he ever played was enough to win MVP and to be voted by his peers best player in the league. Then he goes to the Patriots, off a year off an injury, and there's COVID. He can't practice with his new teammates. The team where Tom Brady looked ordinary that year, right, because I was wrong about the Cliff, because he had no receivers, was, if anything, worse, because COVID, 9 players didn't play, mostly on the defense, but they had no offensive weapons either. He himself got COVID, so he was feeling the effects of that, and the facilities were shut down so he could practice even less, guys. And with all that, they won 7 games. I'm not ready to say it's over for Cam based on that.
I'm not ready to say that it's over, but I'll be damned if I'm going to sit here and say that Rodney Harrison is lying. He's a damn good NFL analyst. He's a champion within this organization. He'd have an idea about the nuances involved in the Patriot way and what it takes to be successful. Therefore, he knows what the hell he's looking at. And by the way, I love Cam Newton. I wish him nothing but the best. But I got to tell you, I have never been fond of his throwing ability, ever. I don't believe he's been the most accurate passer. I've pointed out on numerous occasions. In his 9 previous years in the National Football League, he's only completed 60% of passes or better 3 times. He is not the most accurate passer. He cocks his head back. That slows your release to some degree. At times, he's a bit transparent with where he's going with the football. Cam Newton was a stud because he was a stud athlete. Phenomenal physique, phenomenal athleticism from the quarterback position. Obviously, a power runner from the quarterback position, but he will never be accused of being even closely resembling an accurate passer.
Dan Orlovsky,
I love what the character that Cam showed today. Be safe in Tampa.
The image that he had presented coming out of college and through the draft and through his career so far in Houston has been so positive. And I don't think this approach really reflects what he has presented over the past few years. So I'm disappointed, and I just don't think we can, anybody, whether it be that football team or the other 31 teams, start allowing players to step in and make decisions, who runs them, who coaches them, and all these kinds of things. If you want to make all the decisions as an owner, then buy your own team.
Stephen A., if you want to make all the decisions, just buy the team. Your reaction?
Very archaic response, very archaic mode of thinking on the part of Dick Vermeil is incredibly unfortunate. When you get to his age and his accomplishments, obviously you can get away with that because he ain't looking for a job anymore, because he certainly wouldn't get another job as an NFL head coach with that kind of thinking. I can understand where he's coming from because there's a lot of people in the NFL that thinks like that, which is why the NFL has some of the problems that it has when it comes to diversity issues, particularly as it pertains to African Americans who are hired as head coaches, not to mention general managers or even presidents of football operations. This is the kind of stuff that contributes to that kind of challenge that African Americans face. To sit up there and to say what he said about Deshaun Watson, you're acknowledging his character, but then in the same breath saying that that's why you're disappointed in him. Did it ever occur to you we might need to find out exactly what the Houston Texans did? Cal McNair, what role did he play in all of this? How honest and truthful was he? How upstanding was he? What about Bill O'Brien hiding in Tuscaloosa as we speak behind Nick Saban? I'm telling you right now, and listen, I don't know Bill O'Brien from a can of paint. I'm not trying to cast any aspersions on him in terms of his character or anything like that. But I swear to you, there is no way in hell he should ever get away with getting another job, at least in the NFL, without answering what the hell happened in Houston. Why is Deshaun Watson so completely done with this organization? Janice McNair, the widow of Bob McNair, who owned the team, God rest his soul. What does she have to say? What role did she play? What role did the McNair family play in Deshaun Watson reaching this point? The fact that Dick Vermeil brings none of that up and puts everything on the shoulders of Deshaun Watson reeks of somebody saying, shut up and play. That's what this reeks. It reeks of what Laura Ingraham said about LeBron James and other athletes. It reeks of that all day, every day. You want Deshaun to shut the hell up, play football, deal with whatever circumstances that that you're exposed to. Don't hold management, don't hold ownership, don't hold anybody in the executive branch accountable. You as a player, be happy you got this money. Now go out there and perform. No wonder it took him so damn long to win a Super Bowl. No wonder why he had to have Kurt Warner and Marshall Faulk and those boys. I mean, you got to be kidding me. This is and Isaac Bruce, let's not forget him. This is the kind of stuff that really, really concerns me. And as Stephon Diggs said, we living in a different age and time. We know folks wanted us to be that way. We ain't having it. Doesn't mean you get irresponsible. Doesn't mean you act belligerent or truculent in any way. Please don't get me wrong, because you work for somebody and respect has to be given. But if you're done and you want no part of an organization, it is not a crime to say so. And it's not a crime to say why. I'm actually disappointed that Deshaun Watson hasn't come out publicly and really stated for the record what he feels, even if it's on Instagram or Twitter. Say something rather than leaving it for your agent or somebody else to say. That's my only issue with him, but I got no issue with how he feels. I got an issue with how Dick Vermeil feels, what he has expressed, and obviously how that thought process was instigated, at least on a public level, by Mr. Brett Favre, retiring and unretiring, holding the Packers organization hostage and all of that other stuff before he wanted out. The nerve of these people, the nerve.
No. I disagree with Dick Vermeil. And let me say, let's take this in conjunction with what Favre said yesterday. You just brought it up, Stephen A. Yesterday, Favre was talking about we, meaning Favre and Deshaun Watson and players, get paid too much to have an opinion or to voice an opinion. And I said at that time, well, then the owners should never voice an opinion about anything because they got more money than the players. They make more. If it's based on how much money you make, the more you make, the less you can say, the fewer opinions you're allowed to have. Owners better not have an opinion about anything. Like nothing. Like, does the soup taste good? I don't know. I have no opinion. That's how the owners should be. Except that we know that's not really what they're talking about. Listen to Dick Vermeil. You know, they own the team. If you want to call the shots, you go own the team. So with Favre also, it's they pay us too much. We are the hired help. We're the labor. That's ownership. They make all the decisions and can have the opinions because they have amassed huge pools of capital. We can't say anything. Now, what Brett Favre and Dick Vermeil, and I mentioned earlier an interview with Dick Vermeil not that long ago where he admitted where he came from. He wasn't starting on equal footing with everyone in terms of being sensitive, for example, to race relations. He was, you know, there were racism, for lack of a better word, around him growing up. And he had to learn as he was going. So through the 1960s, when black student athletes were protesting, his opinion was, hey, they're on scholarship, they should be quiet. But he evolved past that position, Stephen A. So earlier in the show, when I say I hope Dick Vermeil can get sensitized to this and evolve past this and continue to learn as his life goes on, he is still alive, is that there's a huge overlap between labor relations and race relations. This is a labor issue, but it's also a race issue. And the reason for that is because black people were once property, right? You talk about amassed pools of capital. They were part of the capital pool that someone would own, basically. And so we're not talking about a group of people that started out on equal footing, and that's reflected in labor. Look at the NFL, 70% black. Ownership, 0% black. Dick Vermeil may not be sensitive enough to that issue. He thinks he's talking about a labor issue. Hey, where I'm from, you're just happy to have the job. The boss can say what he wants. You just put your head down and work. But he may be insensitive to the huge overlap with the racial issue, which is the black people are always the labor and never the owners. And so if you subscribe to that way of thinking, then what you're saying is a whole group of people shouldn't have an opinion and should have no control of their own destiny. And so Stephen A., you're right. If he's aware of that and he still has this position, he and I just disagree. I hope what's going on is he is not sensitized enough to that issue.
Yeah, I hope Deshaun Watson's watching. Dan Orlovsky, am proud of Deshaun Watson. I'm not disappointed in him because this decision is made on character. It's made because of his integrity. So, respectfully to Dick Vermeil, probably find out what the situation is before making those comments. Like, this sounds like to me when I sit there and go to my mother-in-law or my mother and complain that my Grubhub order is 2 minutes late. And they look back at me like, you're an idiot. Because they know they had it much harder. It's a different era. Now, Dick Vermeil should also know that I'm a note taker. First of all, he says that Deshaun Watson has no say in his contract what he can and cannot do. That's incorrect. He does. He has a no trade clause. So that's issue number one. Number two, he says he should just know his role on the team. He's a private entity. Players are private entities. He doesn't necessarily have to be determinant upon what the team says he can or cannot do when it comes to the decisions. Number three, he says maybe he should just be quiet, work harder, and become a better player. Respectfully, again, Dick Vermeil, he led the NFL in passing last year. He's a pretty darn good player already. And then he said the leader should lead the team and the leader of the organization should lead the organization. Sir, the leader of the organization is the highest paid employee, and that's Deshaun Watson. The leader of the organization decided to give his first game check last year to employees to help them out. The leader of the organization is in the community taking money out of his pockets and giving it back to the community. In fact, he was doing that last week. The leader of the organization, when it comes to the actual one, Cal McNair, is the reason they're in this situation to begin with. It has nothing to do with football. And that's my issue with Dick Vermeil. Understand why it is where it is.
Well, one thing I want to say before we end this subject, Dan, is this. It amazes me because it ignores the fact that if you are a successful coach, if you are a successful franchise, particularly in the National Football League, in all likelihood, it's because of the individual playing that position and playing it at a very, very high level. They are a strong reason as to you having the success that you have. And that's what he seems to be forgetting in this situation, which appears to be so egregious because it begs the question, how could someone so knowledgeable about football, so accomplished in the sport, forget that and ignore that? It must be because of a personal, innate belief that there's a place that people belong in and there's a place that they shouldn't. And the fact that Dick Vermeil has publicized his position in such a fashion about Deshaun Watson, I got news for you. It ain't about being disappointed in Deshaun Watson. It's about sitting here today and being disappointed in Dick Vermeil because I certainly expected better from him.